Bruce Abrahamson has witnessed firsthand the hollowing out of scholarship in the American Academy and watched as cliches and credentials became substituted for intellect and evidentiary argument. The new Civil War is the best account to date of how the empty claims of expertise have led America into a political cul-de-sac. Hi again, how are you? Here's another excerpt from this book that I'm reading. 2020 Vision, Chapter 6. In late 2019, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, unleashed a plague upon the world. Many of the specifics are still unknown. For present purpose, many of them don't much matter. What matters is that a dangerous virus moved from a lab in Wuhan to infect the surrounding population. With the help of the World Health Organization, the WHO, the CCP spread misinformation about the communicability of this virus. By the time the world appreciated the threat, we were in the grips of a global pandemic. In the United States, the progressive cult of expertise sprang into action. The CCP had handed them an incomparable gift. Could there ever be a clearer case for trusting the experts? Top epidemiologists and previously obscure public health officials took to the podium. The progressive cul-de-sac dominating the press placed them on a pedestal. The choice was clear: defer to the experts in all things or assume culpability as a mass murderer. The president's initial instincts had leaned in a very American direction, attempting to preserve maximal liberty while promoting individual responsibility, limit entry into the country to minimize exposure, minimize coercion, keep the economy functioning as well as possible, and provide assistance to those hurt most directly by this global pandemic. Prioritize treatment of the most vulnerable population, promote increased hygiene and other responsible individual behavior, galvanize the private sector to take coordinated action, motivate domestic manufacturing of protective gear and therapeutics, ensure that healthcare providers and insurers absorb the bulk of the public costs, focus on logistics to get portable resources to whatever they're needed most, eliminate red tape standing between useful innovations and the marketplace, flow resources to those working on therapies and vaccinations, streamline regulatory burdens to speed development, testing, and deployment of vaccine, announce any positive result with a hopeful spin, try to keep people optimistic to minimize their panic, take calculated steps to minimize the number of collateral deaths that could arise where our hospitals overwhelmed with virus patients, that is, flatten the curve. Understand, however, that such flattening is a matter of deferring infection and death, not of preventing it. It was a fine plan, reminiscent in many ways of FDR's pivot to galvanize America's industries upon entering World War II. It is recognized that a free society has certain limitations. It trusted Americans to behave responsibly. It also recognized that though Serious enough to warrant unprecedented action and expenditures, this Wuhan-born coronavirus was hardly bubonic, the bubonic plague. We would not lose a quarter of our population as London had done during 22 weeks in 1665. Contact with the virus was hardly a death sentence. Most of the people who came into contact with it would not get infected. Most who became infected would not get sick. Most who got sick would experience relatively mild symptoms. Most with severe symptoms would recover. Only among those who were already weak, elderly, frail, immunocompromised, morbidity, obese, was there anything greater than a 1% risk of death? Even the experts conceded all those points. There was no way to escape this pandemic without incurring a significant national cost. Left entirely unchecked, the virus might have killed a few million Americans. Mitigation measures of the sort that would let life function more or less normally for most of the population would have brought the number way down. To those who understand statistical science, the proper approach was obvious. The 80-20 rule is an empirical observation that it is often possible to gain 80% of the benefit of a solution for only 20% of the cost. That final 20% soaks up most of the expense. President Trump, as a savvy businessman, set out to find a way to gain maximum benefits at a minimal cost. That approach would have been solidly rational, well-founded, and, as noted, characteristically American. It might have worked had it been given a chance. It never got one. Instead, a panicked superiority handed over to progressive experts. They assumed command through a very important piece of the president's plan. The task force he assembled to address the pandemic was a Trojan horse. It was stocked with experts who somehow neglected to teach Americans about the 80-20 rule. Get it now. Americans face a bizarre new political landscape. A supposedly moderate president who ran on promises of unity is pursuing a radical left-wing agenda. Build back better. Only this Build Back Better agenda is not left-wing at all. It's a global agenda. Engineered by Klaus Schwab, the Great Reset. These challenges call for principled, effective opposition. The new Civil War will help start a conversation about how to push back. I recommend this book too. It's very good. Thank you very much.